Hey everyone, welcome to the bi-weekly family check-in. Dave, by the way, did you even notice that we have a weird background now?
That's pretty fancy. I feel like I'm big time now.
That's a big deal. Anyway, hey guys, we are here for the bi-weekly family check-in. We are jumping in 2 minutes early because, that's just how we do things. Dave and I were ready, and so we're popping in early. We are so excited that you're here with us. We want to preview with the fact that we have a lot of conversations going on that Dave and I want to try and cover in an hour. One has to do with ice cream. One has to do with the Facebook group. We have some common themes we want to discuss. It's going to be a whirlwind of a Sunday, but make sure you also include your questions in the comments because that's why we're here. Dave and I will be right back. You should probably go grab a bowl of ice cream or at least some M&Ms, and then we'll be right back. Hey everyone, happy bi-weekly family check-in day. You're here with, the Dave and Rae hangout is really what I'm going to end up calling this. Dave, how are you? Happy Sunday.
Well, I was actually just looking at my calendar to see if I missed something. Like, is today a major holiday or is there a major sporting event on or something? Because I feel like that always happens when we're on. So if I missed anything today, people let me know because I don't have anything on my calendar other than this. So
because truly we went live for bi-weekly family check-in on Easter. We did it on Super Bowl Sunday. I mean, I think today's just a Sunday, but then again, I'm sure there's someone out there celebrating like a birthday today, April 18th. Something's big going on. So.
Or it's just Rae and Dave Day. We can go with that because that's pretty epic. So
Rae and Dave Day. Now that's a celebration. I did pull the trigger, by the way. We had the longest name ever for our Sunday hangout because we kind of put bi-weekly family check-in Q&A with Mastermind Rewind, and then it was Sunday. And so we're just going with bi-weekly family check-in where we take your questions and answer them, and we recap common things going on, like common conversations going on in the mastermind. We're just putting them together.
Or Rae and Dave Day. Let's just, whatever. You do what you want to do. I'll go with Rae and Dave Day.
That's fine. That's no big deal. So I see there's people in the comments. Hello, hello, hello. We can say hello to Danielle, Carrie, Lindsay, Nikki. We're so excited all of you are here. We have to start out this conversation with the hard-hitting topics, right, Dave? I mean, it's Sunday. It's already a few minutes in, and I don't want to waste any time. We need to talk about ice cream and M&Ms because this is a serious issue, and I think that we need to discuss it.
Yeah, Rae, I'm struggling.
Tell me
more.
Tell me more.
I need an intervention. Oh. Before we went live, I said, Rae, I need an accountability partner. I've been making some poor choices, and it's affecting not only my physical health, it's affecting my bank account. It's affecting the people around me. Rae, I'm addicted to ice cream. This is the real deal. A couple of weeks ago, you came clean and started talking about how much you were craving ice cream and how much you were eating when you were just kind of basically stuck at home. And I think I'm going to blame you 100% for this. You put an idea in my head, and I have eaten ice cream every single day since then, with the exception of right now. Right now, I feel like I should have a spoon in my hand. I need help, Rae. I need help.
Dave,
I don't know how to break this.
First of all, I'm taking no credit for this because I talked about ice cream being an issue on the podcast. I talked about it with you live. You guys were supposed to hold me accountable. And I think I've only gone into a worse addiction now, which I just want you to know. So here's what happened with the ice cream. So Livia sent me ice cream. It was a coffee ice cream with chocolate chunks. Okay. Are you
Hold on. No. I said I need an accountability partner. You are sending me to the edge right now, Rae.
So Dave, I fixed it because I ate the entire tub, the whole thing. Livia, it was so good. And then I haven't bought any ice cream since. I have no ice cream in the house. Therefore, Rae Hughart not eating ice cream right now, right? I mean, here's the problem though. Do you know Blaine Alexander?
I do.
Yeah. Friends on Twitter, hang out, like we text sometimes. He sends me a wonderful care package. How nice was that, right?
It's amazing.
After the surgery, what did it have in it? It had like an entire container of peanut M&Ms. Like when I say container, I don't mean like a cute little like, you know, Halloween or even like the big one. I'm talking about like the bag that comes that like no human is supposed to consume. And so when the ice cream ran out, I was like, hold up. Blaine sent me a package and I'm pretty sure there was something sweet in there. So now I feel like all I do is walk around with peanut M&Ms. Anybody want one? Peanut M&Ms?
Are you saying that ice cream is like a gateway to that? Is that what I need to be worried about? Oh, no.
To the extent, Dave, that I had that container, that bag, that massive bag of M&Ms on my nightstand for about 3 weeks. On my nightstand. Tell me how you say no to that at like 10:30 at night, snuggled into bed, watching some TV before you go to sleep. What do? Lean over for the M&Ms. This is the problem.
Wow. So when I reached out and said I need an accountability partner,
I'm not your girl.
I feel like I found a sinning partner. You found somebody that said, we're going to burn this place down together. Huh? Is that what's happening?
No, I don't condone this behavior, but I don't have a solution for you. So hopefully somebody in the comments can tell us what we're going to do. Danielle already jumped in and she says that it's a peanut butter whiskey. That's the issue of the ice cream that she loves. I'm telling you guys, I am not your solution, Dave, but I will be on the journey with you. Is that
okay? Let's go big or go home. So I don't really know.
If you listen to Teach Better Talk podcast, my solution to the ice cream thing was to either not have ice cream in your house or buy ice cream flavors you don't want so you don't eat them.
And that's not going to work for me. So
do you want a peanut M&M?
Actually, now I do, honestly. Yes. Yeah. Or peanut butter M&M. Yeah.
No, right? The peanut ones are better.
Are they?
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, Dave.
Well, seeing as you're just jumping off and enjoying this while we're going, should I just go to my freezer real quick and just eat ice cream while we're talking about it right now in front of everybody? I feel okay.
I'm just saying it shows that there's a problem because on live I brought some with me because you know in some way, shape, or form for the next hour, even though I'm on camera, I was like I could eat peanut M&Ms. That's
amazing though. I love it. It goes to this idea that you just embrace who you are and let's like me, don't like me. I don't care. I'm liking M&Ms. Deal with it.
Is there some sort of like professional, I don't know, do we have like a rule that like you can't eat when you're live on camera with the Teach Better team? Like what's the rule? Can I sit here and just shout out on peanut M&Ms? Is that okay?
Well, I feel like this is a rule that you would create. So you tell me, Rae, is there a rule against this?
I would like to take a vote. If you're listening right now, if you could please put in the comments like either a yes, we're good to just shout out on peanut M&Ms, or maybe not, Rae, hold off for the next hour. That'd be great. We'll determine within the next few minutes because there's a delay. So we're gonna wait for people to say, yep, that's good, or no, we'd prefer not to watch you consume hundreds of peanut M&Ms, right?
And I'm honestly worried right now, Rae. I feel like I have corrupted you a little bit. This used to be a high class thing that you did every 2 weeks, just there to serve people. And then you brought the brain break guy on, and now you're just scarfing M&Ms. There's no script. We're just talking ice cream and M&Ms. I'm sorry. I owe you an apology.
I appreciate you acknowledging your part in this because I really feel like you should owe me an apology. So I'm glad.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, moving on here. Dave, we are seeing some comments come in. We're going to take a final vote here in a second. We did have like two different things we wanted to do. Do you mind if I like kick off what direction we go first?
You go ahead.
Okay. I don't know. I know that it's interview time. I know that this is the time where people are making decisions about their futures. Maybe they're choosing to change locations of their role. Maybe they're not. Their student teachers are looking for jobs. I mean, like even people who aren't looking for jobs might be working with different people and now they're interviewing for those roles. My entire week was like consumed with people and questions about interviewing. And then I even popped into the mastermind this week. I think it was this week. Maybe it was the week before. And it was
every week. It's every week that we talk about this.
It was about interviewing. So I kind of want to like talk about the elephant in the room and ask you a few questions. Maybe there's going to be some questions about interviewing in the comments, because the reality is every year around this time is about interviewing, but I was inundated with people either like asking for me to look at their resumes or having me write letters of rec, or they wanted to do like a mock interview or wanted to talk strategy in an interview. It just seems like this is something that's on people's minds.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like it probably is amped up a little bit more this year. We've talked about this a lot, that the last year, this pandemic has really magnified a lot of things in a lot of people's minds. And unfortunately, I think it has made people focus in, maybe rightly so, maybe wrongly so, I don't know, on things that they're maybe frustrated with in one place and they're looking to go somewhere else, or people just looking for a fresh start. And they're now seeing that maybe they're being drawn to something else where they see people that are doing something amazing that they might not have seen before. But yeah, I am definitely seeing it on a more ramped up scale this year than ever before.
Well, and I was actually excited to discuss it specifically with you because by the way, if anybody listening, if you have questions about interviewing or just want like a tip or trick, throw it in the chat. We'd be happy to answer something. But Dave, a lot of the work that I do with interviews is from a teacher's perspective, right? Like my student teachers interviewing right now. I've looked at numerous colleagues' resumes because I've been able to see the admin side a little just through leadership roles or through the Teach Better team. But really my work when it comes to interviewing is really like coaching the interviewee. Whereas your role and the discussion in the mastermind that I participated in was really from the leader's role in the interview and what candidates they were looking for, and also how to give feedback. I thought this was the most fascinating conversation. I've never thought about this, but how principals and leaders want to be able to give feedback to people who interview, and they want to make sure they do well in that process. And so I didn't see all the elements of this until, like, not to sound silly, but like until this week, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many layers.
Yeah, it is a big deal. And the layers begin before we even get to the interview. The layers begin when you first started thinking, do I even want to start applying for something? Whether you're brand new and you're thinking, is this the career I want? Or if you're starting to think, do I transition? Do I move? Do I go somewhere else? Do I start from scratch? Then you start, I feel like you're trying to decide, do I swipe left? Do I swipe right? Which schools do I apply for? Back when I was applying for jobs, I actually had to take a manila folder and actually drive around school to school to school and drop them off. And I had to figure out, how far do I want to drive? Which school do I really want to walk into to give my packet to? Nowadays, it's which website looks the best, which place looks like it's the best fit for me, which interview do I go on, which call do I return? There are so many variables that come into play before you even get the call saying, come talk to us.
Right. And so I want to preface everything that Dave and I share over the next however long this conversation's last is really just our opinion, our experience. Every single principal, every single district, every single team of teachers could be looking for something different. Everybody has their own preferences. I mean, guys, really, we just want to preface every single place is different, and we know that. However, there are some common themes, some common norms that you've probably seen in your career, Dave, and even now working with administrators and teachers that I feel like I can say the majority of people look for this, or, oh, I see this really common in the Chicagoland area, or things like that. So would you agree with that?
Oh, yes, 100%. Yeah. Yeah.
So I have some silly questions that I don't know if this would interest the people that are joining us tonight, but some common questions that I was asked this week that I kind of wanted to throw at you and maybe discuss further. Does that sound good?
I'm nervous. I'm not prepared for this, but go for it. I'll do the best I can.
My mindset's like, you might have a different opinion than me. And like I said, that's okay. It really depends on who it is. So the first thing is like this element. I just want to like get this out there. It's not dirty or inappropriate or bad to say that you're looking for a different job. Like, I think that there's some shame that people feel when they're like, ugh, I'm choosing to explore. I kind of would love your opinion on that. You know, teachers sometimes feel that it's bad to leave the position that they're in, but I've actually seen some positives in it. So can you tell me a little bit about your thoughts on that?
I could not agree more with you. You know, the thing that is bad is when we try to keep secrets from people, when we try to hide things from people. And just equate this to your own family, to relationships that you're in with friends or loved ones. When you try to keep secrets and secrets become uncovered, then it's this trust that's been broken. But if you're just clear and open and honest and say, hey, I want to see what's out there, there is not an amazing leader out there that will look you in the eye and shame you or make you feel horrible. They will probably congratulate you. They will probably wish you well. They will probably say, I will do anything I can to support you. If it works out, amazing. If it doesn't, you're welcome back here. And that's what you want to work for. If you have somebody that then looks you in the eye and says, well, then get out of here. Well, then you made the right choice to say it's time to exit. But clear is kind. That was a theme that we heard a lot this year. Yeah. Just be clear, be open, and look, don't feel like you need to sneak around. Just be clear. And as a leader, if it's April and I hear from somebody that they're looking to go somewhere else, that actually helps me. So I don't feel like something was just sprung on me at the last minute. Now I have to pivot and try to explore a quick solution. I would appreciate that notice so that I can start making plans as well.
So if you're listening to this right now, feel free to share. I don't know where you guys are watching this. We're streaming this on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. If you want to share this conversation so that your friends, your colleagues can ask questions live with us, feel free to do so. But Dave, that kind of goes into my next question, which is, when do you tell your boss, your leader, that you're looking? Because I want you to know, and I apologize if this is so ignorant and foolish, but my first year teaching, I loved my job and I was not really looking, but I was kind of looking because the dream job was open. But other than the dream job, I wasn't looking. I was happy where I was. And I really believed that if I told my principal that I was maybe applying to this one position because it was perfect in every way and I couldn't miss my opportunity to at least put my name in the hat, that he would fire me on the spot. And it's comical now that I'm I don't know a single principal who would say, oh yeah, because you're looking, I'm going to get rid of you. Leadership wants their teachers to be successful. They want them to stay. And so giving them a heads up earlier, sooner rather than later is actually beneficial. Don't you think? In most cases.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I want to preface this with in most places, because yeah. I know that it works differently in a lot of different places. I have worked in environments where there's this day that you are looking forward to, that you have to get to whatever that day is on the calendar so that the district can come to you and say, your contract is being renewed next year. And once you get to that day, then you feel like it's open season. Now I can be honest and be real, because there really is that fear. And I own that. I acknowledge that 100%. Yeah. But if we're just talking person to person, I want to know, I want to be able to help you. I want to be able to support you in your journey. And like you said, I am not going to, as a leader, as a principal, wherever I'm working, I am not going to take a good employee and brush you aside so that I can go through the process of trying to find somebody brand new that I then have to interview, hire, train, and maintain if I already know that you are amazing. I'm going to try my best to hold on to you. You're darn right. If you come to me and say that you're going to try to go somewhere else, I am going to put the best sales pitch on possible because you are incredible and I want you to stay. Right. But I also trust you and I value you. And I so appreciate you coming to me and telling me, even if there's one chance, just with that same honesty that you just presented, I'm only looking for one. I'm not going out there and throwing 1,000 resumes out there. You've got one. Okay. That gives me some hope. I'm going to call and run your name through the mud with that one school so that they don't hire you or whatever the case may be. But the honesty is what matters. You've got to be honest. Just be clear. Be clear. Clear is kind.
Yes, I've seen so much, positivity in being able, even if it's after that date that I understand people really do want to know they have some security, but being able to go to your leader and have the respect and say, hey, just FYI, I'm job hunting. And it's, I might end up leaving, and it allows the leader to say, okay, I might have a position open. I'll keep my eyes peeled, but they're not going to start hunting until that's all final anyway. So yeah, that's about it. Okay. So tell me about the interview. So now I've applied and I get my 3 letters of rec, which are always really tricky to get. And then I go to the interview. Don't you always feel like you overdress? But is there really a way to overdress? I had this conversation with my student teacher and it was so funny.
Okay. You're asking the wrong person.
I know. You underdress all the time for stuff. Yes. And so I'm fascinated, backwards hat, what you wear to an interview.
Yeah. So, well, this could be a whole lesson on what not to do, but it's worked out. So I don't want people to take any of my advice and say, it worked for him, so I'm going to do it. But it does come down to being true to you. When you say, is there a way to overdress? Yeah. If you dress like you're going to prom or your own wedding, you're probably overdressing. You don't need to wear a tux or a fancy flowing gown, but dress so that you're comfortable, dress so that when you look in the mirror, you're like, yeah, this This is who I am. This is my best foot forward. But I'm also going to be comfortable in this. I'm not going to sweat through this. People aren't going to see me extremely uncomfortable and fidgeting because it's a different material that I'm used to wearing or whatever. Be comfortable. But if you're questioning, am I dressed up enough? Then you're not. Dress up a little bit more.
Okay, I was expecting for us to disagree on this real hardcore.
Well,
I just, because I'm on the extreme of like, you should overdress. Like, that's just who I am. And when people are like, oh, you should wear what you're comfortable in, I'm like, no, you should look like you're probably in your mom's clothes. But when you do, if you're more comfortable in like black, then sure, wear black. But like, I am all about like, you need to dress to the nines for an interview. But yeah. I feel like you phrased it well. Like, if you feel like you might be underdressed, you are.
And for interviews, just so we're clear, for job interviews, I'm always good. I've got my 5 suits that I wear for the interviews, so I'm good with that. That's never been the issue. It's the next steps that I tend to get a little bit comfortable. A prime example, and this is beyond the interview. My first principalship, I was invited to come to the board meeting after I was hired to meet the board. I didn't realize that that's still technically part of the interview, that the board still has to sign off on you. I showed up thinking it's a board meeting. I'm going to just sit in the back and kind of observe. I came in pure Schmittou fashion. I was wearing flip-flops, jeans, and a Hawaiian shirt, and then was called up to meet the board. You want to talk about holy crap feelings? Luckily, the superintendent pulled me aside and said, that's okay. They got to know the real you. However, next time, I so appreciated that. And there will never be a next time for that because now I know. Dress up. Whenever you're meeting somebody for the first time that you need to impress, dress up. Period.
Yes. I mean, you guys know for Teachers Deserve It, we have a section called like Teachers Deserve to Wear Jeans. We don't mean at a job interview. We mean after.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
Adam might mean Adam Welcome, who I wrote the book with. He might mean when whenever, and that's up to you. I hope you interview in Adam's district. He'd be okay with it. But more or less, I mean after. Way after.
Yes.
Okay, so can you tell me a common question you feel like in a teacher interview, a common question that a teacher might get?
Yeah.
I'm putting on the spot.
Yeah, no, this is an easy one because it's also the best advice I give for interviews. Mm-hmm. So before I tell you the question that people ask, I'm going to give you a Schmittouism. Mm-hmm. Your resume is what got you the interview. Who you are is what will get you the job. Do not feel like when you go to the interview that you have to read your resume to people.
Don't.
They have it. The reason that you are sitting in front of that team of people is because the stuff on your resume. Don't feel like you have to defend or explain any of that. You are there now to explain who you are, what you're passionate about, what makes you tick. So at every single interview that you ever go on, that first question is the most important question. The question where they say, who are you and what are you about? Or however they phrase that. For
Dave,
many of us, that's not a question we practice.
I have seen that question go so badly,
right.
in interviews.
It is that question that every single person around the table will then lean into and decide if they care about the rest of the questions. That is the question that will either engage or disengage everybody. And I know this is going to be a common theme. I feel like every single time I'm live now, I'm talking about the 8 Mile moment. But this is that opportunity for you to pull out the M&M, the 8 Mile moment, for you to drop every little thing out there like Eminem does at the end of 8 Mile that they might be questioning, that they might want to already ask you because there's all these holes and gaps. That's where you put it out there. For me, when they ask, who are you? I put out there, I'm a dad of 4 kids. I tell them where my passions are. I tell them about my interests. I tell them who I am as a man, as a father, as all of those things before I start talking about my experience, because I want them to understand that's where I'm going with this interview. That's all the stuff that I value. That's who I am. So I frame the entire interview around who I am as a person because they already have a paper that sees who I am as a professional.
Well, and it's interesting, Dave, with people listening, there are so many elements of even just your general narrative of things that you would share that people can pull from. But even myself, I mean, I don't have children. I'm not going to start out by being like, I'm a mom, things like that, which I think, by the way, it really humanizes you. You need to humanize yourself in the interview. It's very uncomfortable to interview. Everybody's nervous. Even the people sitting in the interview are nervous. So like being able to pull in those tidbits of like, oh, we have something in common is extremely valuable. But even with me, who would like to talk about work really quick, rather than talk about titles or accomplishments, pull those passions out, right? I'm passionate about this. And then those passions is what drove me to have like all these other roles. So talk about your passions first. They want to see you as a human first. And then you can go into some of the basics of, you know, what you really want them to know about you, what makes you you. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
No, I was just going to respond to Megan Wells, who says, so what should we say? And I'll take this back to the question you asked me a minute ago. For most of the people that tune into this, most of them are current educators, which means if they're interviewing, most of them are transitioning somewhere else. I think this is a perfect opportunity, an appropriate opportunity to front load why you are there, because that's a question they're going to want to ask. They will ask you and put you on the spot.
Sure.
And they might ask you when you're not ready for it. This is an opportunity for you to front load it before they can and say, I am here because of X, Y, or Z. And for whatever it's worth, administrators everywhere are told that current teachers are either running from something or they're running towards something. Current administrators don't really find it interesting and appealing when people explain all the stuff they're running from.
Yeah.
So explain why you're running to. Tell people why you are there, what is so amazing about that district and that school. Let them know that you've done your research and put it all out there up front so you don't have to worry about it later on.
Well, and to your point about like really painting the narrative, right? Painting the picture. This is an appropriate time to also mention the things you're passionate about could also be that you're a connected educator. You love to learn. You don't need to mention the Teach Better team, but I just mean like you are dedicated. You've dedicated your time to not only serving students, but connect with other teachers and learning. And that's something you enjoy. And you're building a family around you to support you, to take risks and try things. I mean, these are all in like a way need to be summed up. But I do have to say, Dave, one of the most common mistakes in this question is to have it gone too long, I think. Because that's where I've seen like some of the like like all the way down, because they've been talking for 25 minutes and we've only gone through the first question and you're like, shh, we have more questions. Just stop talking.
Well, you're right. You are right. But I also think it's important that you use this time to make sure you get out the stuff that you've been preparing in your head. Just like as an administrator, when I used to sit down across the table from an angry or upset parent, one of the worst mistakes I would make would be to interrupt that parent before they got done with their speech that they had rehearsed all the way into my school. Let them finish, and then they'll be ready to listen. If you are going to an interview, really, that's the question. That is the question that you need to be really focusing on for your answer. Don't try to anticipate what are the 15 questions they might ask me, and then be prepared for those questions. Think about what are the 15 things, or more importantly, what are the 5 things you want them to know? Not what questions you need prepared to answer, but what do you want them to know? And this is a great opportunity for you to let them know those things before you forget them.
I love the number throughout. And Dave, I'm going to go to 3 because I know that's your favorite number.
That's actually what I was going to say, but I resisted.
You went to 5, which was good because I want to actually transition to that. So guys, we just had a course come out in the Teach Better Academy. If you haven't checked it out, it's on social media. And the reason that we created this course, to be completely honest, since, you know, we never lie to you guys, completely honest, it's because we did this activity with our team in like January, and we were trying to decide what course we wanted to make for this coming month. And we were like, oh my gosh, let's take the activity that we did with our like internal team and let's bring that to our family, our external Teach Better family. So one of the activities that we did in building your social media, so you're getting what you want out of your social media profile, was identifying the top 3 to 5 things you want your network to know about you when they think of your profile. So when they think Dr. Dave Schmittou on Twitter, are they thinking negative, toxic energy, you know, always complaining, you know, telling the truth and his opinions on politics, like, or are they thinking positive, funny, comical, intelligent, expert in grading? Like, what do you want them to think of? And so we said like 3 to 5 things is the goal. If you end up having 6, you know, it is what it is. It's completely arbitrary, but that's a perfect activity for all of you to be doing right now on your next interview, to say, if I had 3 to 5 things that I wanted to make sure came across, what would those be? And that kind of sets up your beginning question.
Oh, it totally does. And it's funny, before we discussed that this is what the topic was going to be today, I had some notes of some things that I wanted to bring up, which it's so similar to this conversation. The question I had, I'll just write it down or read it out loud just so you can hear where this is going. But what do you do if your expectations for yourself don't match the expectations others have for you? And I think this is so spot on when we talk about interviewing. So often in interviews, we go in thinking, how can I make all the people around this table like me? How can I make them think that I am part of them, that I fit with their beliefs? And the reality is most administrators pull a diverse team together around the table that represent a lot of different viewpoints, a lot of different perspectives that are probably multiple grade levels, multiple departments, and you're not going to be able to please them all. So go in and at the very forefront, put your own beliefs, your own values, put yourself on the table. So you don't have to worry about, am I pleasing everybody else? How do I need to answer these questions? What are they really looking for? Be you. Be you.
Well, and I think that that's an important thing to say. So I may even make you say it again for the people in the back, because there's so many people in that room, you can't assume they all want to hear the same thing. Like, I remember being in my dream job interview, and as I'm interviewing, I'm looking at the department chair for the department that I was interviewing for. And my thought was, she cares about standards, therefore everybody in this room cares about Common Core standards. And if I don't know everything about Common Core standards, then I better be nervous about my answers. And the reality is, when you look around the room, now knowing these people, having worked with them for the last 8 years, she does care about standards. That was an appropriate evaluation. But then the principal cares about relationships. The PE teacher really cares about having a good staff member, a good colleague. I mean, the focuses are so different for everybody in there. So you should try and touch on as many as you can. But the reality is like, if you have an area that you're really passionate about, allow that to radiate, because it's going to allow you to also relax. You're going to smile and you're going to feel confident with your answers.
Oh, yes. I love that. And here's a more nuanced, real strategic approach to this, especially if it's a face-to-face interview. Online, this is super easy to do, but face-to-face. So the way that oftentimes in interviews work, let's just say that there are 10 questions and 5 people sitting around the table. Each person is probably going to ask 2 questions. Right. Just because Mrs. Jones or Mr. Smith asks you the question, it does not mean that is the question that they care about the most.
Not at all.
They flipped a coin or they went around and numbered off 1 through 5, and that just happens to be the question that they ask. So when you're answering that question, don't just look at the person that asked you the question.
No.
Understand that they asked the question, but you are answering for everybody. So make sure that when you're answering a question, you continue to make eye contact with everybody in the room, that you continue to smile to everybody in the room. Just like as a teacher, when one student raises their hand, understand that multiple kids might have that same question. And it's a great opportunity for you to speak to the room.
Oh my gosh, Dave, I forgot that suggestion. I told nobody that suggestion this week. That's so important. Oh my gosh. Yes. You would always start maybe with like the beginning of the word or the sentence to them they asked. And then you can do like the star, right? Then you go this way, then you go in the center, then you go over this way, right? So like you have to move and groove during an interview. Oh my gosh, Dave, I'm so glad you reminded me of that one. We're getting some questions in the chat, so I do want to get to this. And then Dave, just so you know, I feel like I should give you a heads up. I want to have this discussion around, you feel like, the most common question for administrators in an interview, because while our network continues to be, classroom teachers who might be searching for other classroom teaching positions, they also might be looking to interview as a coaching position or interview for, an administrative position. And so like, I want to move to that dialogue soon.
You got it.
I'm going to grab this question from Megan. Megan says, so us as the job seeker, what are the red flags? And then she put another comment that says, example, you don't have to say, but a bunch of open positions not clear on what your role you would take. What is your thoughts on, in my mind, is she asking about, like, as a teacher, what are the red flags for the school?
I'm not sure. So Megan, feel free to clarify here. We can try to answer a couple of different ways. Maybe one is, as the educator, what red flags would you be looking for to say, I don't want to interview there, I don't want to apply there, or that's not the place for me? Or is it, as the person doing the interview, what are red flags when we're interviewing somebody and saying, nope, that's an immediate no? So she said yes before I finished that one. So I'm going to go with the first one. I think she was saying, what are the red flags? Where do you not want to go?
So I feel like there's a lot of things to consider here. And it kind of goes back to when you're looking for a job, why you're looking for the job, in my opinion. You might be looking for a job because you're moving. You might be looking for a job because you're looking for something specific out of your leadership team. Maybe you want something specific for you as a teacher. Maybe you want to teach a specific content or grade level. So all of those factors, I think, go into it. But what are your recommendations, Dave, when it comes to like identifying if the school is a good fit? Because that is, in my opinion, nearly impossible to do as an outside candidate unless you know someone who works in that building or district.
Yeah. A couple of things, and I'm going to say something that's probably going to, you might disagree with this one. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Please.
I would say don't ever go to a school because of who the leader is. And that sounds counterintuitive, but don't go to a school because of who the leader is, because there's a strong possibility that leader will not be there throughout your career. There's a strong possibility that that person's charisma, that person's personality might not necessarily be evident amongst everybody else you work with. And for those of us that have worked in schools before, we understand that we don't work every single day side by side with that leader. They're going to be the one that you're in contact with the most during the process. They're going to be the one that you tend to judge the school by the easiest, but oftentimes they don't necessarily represent everybody that you're going to be working with. So for me, just like with my own kids, I've got 4 kids. My goal is to get them to love each other so unconditionally so that when I'm long gone, they still have each other and they love each other. I want my school to operate that same way. So when you're looking for a school to work with, look for the culture amongst the people that you'll be rubbing shoulders with every day. Yeah,
culture amongst the people is really important. And I think this sounds silly, Megan, especially for you, Megan. If you're looking at a school building, my first recommendation would say, see if anybody in the Teach Better family knows them, right? Like we have a massive network around North America. So if you're looking in North America, there might be a chance that we have somebody in the Teach Better family that is somehow directly or indirectly connected to a principal there, a teacher there, a coach there, or anything in between. Maybe somebody who has a child that goes there. So that's kind of the blessing, the beauty of being a connected educator. But I also think that you can tell a lot about a school based on their choices and how they communicate. I know that that's a little bit of a cliche I think that's something that they told us in college, but I've really seen it in action, especially my role in the Teach Better team. Because if a school chooses to have a Facebook page or chooses to have an Instagram, chooses to have a Twitter, or has a website that's updated, you have to understand that most schools, at least in my perspective, most schools don't run their website. Sometimes those are district mandated. Keep that in mind. But the type of content that they might put out, especially on a social media platform or anything in between, is up to a lot of what is going on in the building. And so, for example, if you look up where I work, Evans Junior High in Bloomington Normal, you will see my principal dressed up as an eagle walking around live streaming on Instagram. I'm not telling you that we're all live streaming on Instagram all the time, but that sure gives you an insight on what our mornings are like when students show up in the building. Very different than I assume other schools are. So I think you can get a kind of a feel of the culture sometimes simply by looking into how they communicate what's going on. Dave, do you have any thoughts on that?
I love every single thing you just said for so many different reasons. But man, you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. This is going to sound so cliche, but we talk all the time about when you're in an interview, you're also interviewing them, right? And how many times have we been told, be careful what you post online because your employer might look it up? Well, guess what? You better be doing the same thing. This is your opportunity to figure out who they really are. Who are they really? And Vicky throws a question: how can you find out what a school culture is if you don't know anybody there? Well, this is one prime example. Or you can go to their website and actually find some people and reach out. I encourage people to do this all the time. When I would get applicants to come through and I was just vetting applicants. And I did this for 2 reasons. When I was a principal, I would call candidates and say, hey, I recommend you call a couple of teachers that are on my staff just to find out if this is a job you want to continue to pursue, because we've got a lot of applicants. And if you think this is a good fit for you, great. If not, I completely understand. And I encourage them to pick up the phone and call people and reach out to them and see if it was a good fit. Because A, as a principal, I want to see if they have the tenacity to do that and the willingness to do it. B, my teachers are going to vet them and say, oh, Mr. Jones and Mrs. Smith called me. They're interested in the job. They sound amazing. And it allows them to truly get some insight on the culture and climate of the building.
I have to say, I have had 2 people, I think, in my career reach out to me, I think via Twitter, to say, I see that you work at Evans Junior High. I want to work there. There's an open position. Can you tell me about that job? And I find it to be like so flattering that they like want my opinion for me to brag on my school. But I think to your point, Dave, it really shows that they want it, right? Like there's so many times we interview candidates and I won't lie, I've sat in many interviews where the interviewee left and I was like, but did they want the job, or are they just like, they need to be employed or they need a paycheck? Like, do they want to work here? And I think that's an easy way to say, yeah, they want to work there. And I know for me, I've simply Googled the school district or looked it up on Twitter and searched it and said, Naperville School District, and see, are there teachers from Naperville School District on Twitter that I can connect with, that I can, tweet at or send a direct message to be like, hey, I'm looking for an apartment in your area. Like, how do trying to make the further connection. I think that really, again, emphasizes the value of being a connected educator.
Right. It's so bizarre. You say only twice in your career. Okay. And that's for school. Mm-hmm. How often do people reach out to you and ask about getting a job with the Teach Better team?
4 times a week.
Right. So what's the difference?
I think the difference is that I apologize. This is so ignorant. I think with the Teach Better team, people don't know how to get a job with the Teach Better team. Therefore, they feel comfortable asking. The school district has like a process that you follow to get a job that people know. You go into Apple Track, you submit your resume. Therefore, it feels like jumping 2 steps if you reach out to me. Does that make sense? No?
Well, I think that's very sweet of you to think that, but I think it's beyond that. And maybe it's just because of your humility. Because when you think about people reaching out to a school system, I doubt very many superintendents have had people reach out to them and say, hey, I want to come work in your school. I doubt that happens. You are sort of like a superintendent of the Teach Better team. You're queen bee, but people are reaching out directly to you to say, hey, how does this work? And part of it is because they feel like they've got this connection with you already. They feel like you're approachable already. They feel like this is already a place they want to work, right? Because they already have that connection with you. And I would challenge everybody, if in their school, if you don't have people reaching out to you saying, hey, I want to come work there. What did it take to work there? Like when I was a principal, oh my gosh, nothing would make me feel better than when people would send me a message on Twitter or Instagram and say, how do I get a job in your school? Your school seems amazing. That was the most flattering thing in the world. If you don't have people doing that about your school, what message are you sending? So that's a whole different conversation for another day, but yes.
That was very nice. And actually, I guess I see that perspective. Like when you feel comfortable and like you feel like you know someone, you feel like you can ask more questions. Mm-hmm. Maybe, that's very sweet, Dave. I appreciate that. We try and be approachable here on the team. It's like a core value. I think that of all things, that's what I care most about of our team. Like if you don't feel comfortable with a member of our team, like reaching out and saying hi, reaching out and asking a question, we haven't done our job very well. That's kind of my perspective, regardless of the topic or anything else.
Yes.
So I have to say, I wanted to go the admin route. I know we've been talking for 40 minutes, but can we really quick pause? You had another way you were going to go with Megan's question, which was like red flags in an interview if you're a teacher. Can we is there a way to touch on that quickly? Like, yes. Can you pick your 2 biggest red flags? I don't know.
Don't tell me about the garbage you left behind. Don't.
Oh.
Don't. A, don't. B, don't. Don't tell me why you left, and don't throw anybody under the bus in the process at all, ever. Even if somebody took a baseball bat to your car, slashed your tires, and spray painted your cat, do not tell me. Don't tell me. I do not want to have any sense that you are negative, that you will leave and spoil somebody else. I just don't. This is your opportunity to smile, to rise above. When they go low, you go high. Pull out your best Michelle Obama and do the best you can to leave a place with dignity and to walk in with dignity.
I legitimately, wholeheartedly could not agree more. I think that is the worst mistake you can make. Yes.
Yes.
You have one more you would want to share?
That is the biggest red flag.
I know. I feel like anything beyond that is like a personal preference. I hate to say that.
It is.
Like the first one, it was like spot on. Everyone on the planet's going to agree with you. But if it's like, this must be a personal preference, I assume.
Yeah. The question, first of all, it's a horrible question. But the question when people say, what is your biggest weakness? Don't say my biggest weakness is also my greatest gift. Don't tell people that you are just a super hard worker and sometimes that gets in the way of your personal life. Don't try to spin that question into an amazing positive. This is your opportunity to be as raw and vulnerable and transparent as possible. And then to lean in and say, and this is my opportunity for growth. And I want you to stand beside me in this. So
I don't agree with you, Dave. I say lie through your teeth, people. Lie through your teeth.
But they're not asking it to say, tell me why you're amazing. They're asking to say, can this person really reflect?
They're asking you to be a jerk. That's why they're asking you that.
Again, granted, it is a crappy question. It is a horrible question.
Horrible.
But we've heard it. We've all sat around interview tables where we've either asked it or we've heard it. So
and
just be real.
Rae recommends lie through your teeth. Make something up that's cutesy. And yeah, I hate that question. Okay, I was going to say, Dave, the other thing for me is somebody who comes, and I apologize, I don't know how to phrase this the right way. Somebody who comes across as like not a hard worker is an immediate turnoff for me. And this goes not just in interviews, really any situation. You need to come in like you're a hustler and you're going to do anything it takes to do what's right for kids and to be a good staff member. I have a really great friend that we talk all the time how there's a difference between being a good teacher and a good staff member, and you need to be both. Ooh, and if you're going to come in any capacity and sound like you're not willing to bust your butt for both areas, it's an immediate turnoff. So I would really, that goes straight back into Dave's first recommendation for that question. Share your passions. Sharing your passions is going to allow you to light up. You're going to sit up straighter. You're going to glow a little bit. You want to keep that throughout the interview. And so you really need to ensure that you're coming across as somebody who's really going to bring their best. Like, we talk about today's best, right? Bring your best every day you're there.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Yeah.
Man. All right. Oh, I always have trouble with, do you have any questions for me? Megan, I have two cop-outs. I just gave my student teacher 2 questions. I thought oh my God, we broke them down for her. 2 easy gimmies. Do you have them, Dave? One was, can you tell me why you really enjoy working at this building, in this school? It's the best question. I know it sounds so lame, but as somebody who's sat in interviews, help, as a teacher helping the group, I loved bragging on my school. And that means when you leave, I'm still in this great mood because I got to brag on my building. I feel like that's a super easy gimme and it gets the positivity real high.
Yeah.
And then the other one, Dave, I think that I brainstormed with my student teacher was something along the lines of what do you need in a good staff to complete the team? It was a middle school specific job. So they're working in teaming. And so it was some sort of question along the lines of how can I best fit this team? What characteristics can I bring that would best support this team?
Yeah, great questions. And I want to zero in on the last thing that you said for the first question. This is an opportunity for you to, I know, whatever. This is that opportunity for you to leave and to make sure that people have that emotional connection to you. You went through and you answered some scripted, process-oriented questions. Mm-hmm. But now as you leave, it is so difficult for those people sitting around the table to remember candidates, to remember who was Rae versus Dave versus Jeff versus Jeff. Who is who? I don't remember. I mean, they'll remember Rae amongst that mix, but the rest of us, they might be a little bit confused on who was who. So this is your opportunity to make them feel good when they think of your name, because that's how it works. Just like when Rae's eating an M&M, she has this good feeling, and that connects her to the next M&M she eats because she's now feeling good. She's got a connection there. If you can ask a question that allows them to validate or to do something from a strengths-based mindset as opposed to deficit mindset, you don't want them answering a question of necessarily what is lacking here, what is the biggest struggle you guys are working to overcome, because now they're going to go to, what is wrong with our school? You want them to focus in on what is amazing here, what's positive, why is your culture so strong? Why do you think you have so many people applying? Something along those lines. The question that I I always fall back on, it's an easy one, is of all the questions that you guys have asked today, which one is the most important question? It allows you to identify their priorities, or if they all disagree with it and debate on it, then that also tells you that it's an open environment where they can all disagree and debate. So
I love that. I'd like to file a formal complaint with M&M that the peanut M&M I just ate didn't have a peanut in it, just so we're aware.
Ooh.
Dave, I know we're at the 50 mark, and I just love talking. I know I love talking about this, but I also really like talking about this with you. So I'm going to take up every moment that I have right now. Vicky wants us to transition to administration. I agree. Can you tell me what is the most common question you believe is most likely asked? And again, everything that we're discussing, guys, is just our opinion. You know, we've had a lot of different experiences. We know every school is different, but feel free to share this with your friends and colleagues right now so they can get these tips and tricks. But Dave, I want to know, what's the most common question in an admin interview?
So let me preface this with, again, my own experience for whatever it's worth.
I know.
As I, back when I first started in education, we're going back 21 years, 20 years and 10 months ago, I thought I was ready to be an administrator. Okay. So literally 2 months after I became an administrator, I thought I could do this. I've got all the answers for all the things. After I got my master's just a couple years later, I went on 16 job interviews and did not get a single second interview. And I could blame it on my inexperience, but then that would be an affront to what I already said about the resume gets you the interview. They wouldn't have given me the interview. If they thought I was too inexperienced to even interview, they would not have wasted their time. They thought, we're going to give this guy a chance. But I went into the interview thinking I had all the answers. And I was ready to tell them all the answers to all the things. That is not what they want. They do not want somebody to come in with 2 guns loaded with all kinds of silver bullets. That's not what they're looking for. They don't want all the answers. They want somebody that is going to be vulnerable, real, transparent, authentic, that will stand beside leaders. With all that being said, there is one question that I've been asked literally at every administrative interview I've ever gone on. Early on, it was a trap question for me. Now I think I do have the answer for it. The question is, they'll give you some arbitrary number, 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days, and they want to know your transition plan, your entry plan. They want to know what's it going to look like for you when you first begin, right?
Wait, this came up in Mastermind or something, because I've heard this and I loved when you talked on this. Dave, I'm so glad we got here. Yes.
Yes, we did it. We came full circle. Yes.
I remember this moment because I heard you talk on this week. So again, to preface, it's something along the lines of, in your first 30 days, in your first 60 days, what's your plan as an administrator? Yes. And I would fall into this trap every time, people. Here we go, Dave.
Well, and it is a trap. It is a trap because most people, they know this question is coming. They prepare for this question and they sit down and they write out basically a unit plan, a lesson plan of all of the things they're going to accomplish in the first 90 days.
Yep.
All of the initiatives they're going to pass, all of the new policies they're going to create, all the things they're going to check off the list.
Yeah.
But the problem is you have never stepped foot in this building. You don't know their strengths. You don't know their struggles. You don't know the people. So it's a trap question. If this is a committee interview, every single thing that you're saying, everybody's sitting around the table and they're thinking, why do they think that needs to change? Why do they think that needs to change? Why is that a problem? Oh, really? They think they're going to change that on my watch? And they're looking to analyze what you're identifying as the deficits of the school. When you come in with a 90-day plan and you're starting to identify all the things that need to get fixed, the people around the table are hearing, you think I'm broken. So that's dangerous. The answer is you're going to spend 90 days getting to know the people. You're going to talk about all of the things you're going to do to lean into people, all the connections you're going to make, all of the opportunities you're going to have to sit down next to people, to observe people, to get to know their thoughts that you can support them. That's the answer. You spend 90 days doing that. You spend 180 days doing that. You spend 365 days doing that. You spend your next decade doing that. That is your entry plan, is get to know the people.
I have to say, Dave, first of all, I was just thinking through, oh my gosh, Dave and Rae are giving all the answers to the hard questions in the interview. The difference is, guys, you can say it, but you gotta believe it. Yes. And truly, to be a good administrator, that should actually be your plan if you truly thought about it. If you truly thought about really what's the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 100 days of your life going to look like, it's going to be meeting your staff, hanging out with kids, getting to know what people need. And so you have to believe it, and it's going to come across so wonderfully.
And you have to have a plan for it too. I mean, it's one thing to say, I'm going to hang out in my office and just let anybody that wants to stop by and say hi. Okay. Yeah. That's not a plan, number one. Right. And B, you'll get 5 teachers that take you up on that offer. Yep. And then you're going to have a whole staff that says all they do is hang out in their office and wait for us to come to them. They're sitting on their throne, sipping coffee and hanging out by the mini fridge. You have to have the plan to say, how are you going to go find the people where the people are? How are you going to get into the community and meet the families? Not how are you going to invite everybody to come see you? What are you going to go do? What are you going to do to go see them?
So Dave, Vicki then kind of asked the piece of this that kind of wrapped up our teacher conversation, which was, okay, so I'm interviewing for your admin position. I didn't get stuck on that question. I'm feeling really good. What am I supposed to ask as a question at the end of an administrator interview? I guess my question to you, Dave, is, would your questions be different if it was a teacher interview or an administrator interview? Because I actually feel like some of the questions, maybe not all of them, but some of the questions we brainstormed fits in an administrator interview, but maybe isn't appropriate. You tell me.
So I think it depends on who's sitting around the table. So here in Michigan, when I interviewed to become a principal, I interviewed with teachers in the building. They were sitting around the table. So it was the people that I was going to be responsible for leading, observing, supervising, evaluating, all of those things, which is one dynamic. I've also interviewed for jobs. I interviewed for a job in Florida, for example, where everybody I was interviewing with, they were above me in the hierarchy. So they wore fancier suits and had fancier shoes and had longer, fancier titles than I did. And that's a much different dynamic. So I am, in both situations, as the leader, I am supposed to be serving needs, serving those above and serving those next to below, however you want to view that hierarchy. But yeah, the questions do differ. The questions differ based off of who you're talking to. So know your audience, know who's going to be at the table before you decide what questions you want to ask.
So maybe this is ignorant. So can I ask, whether it's a teacher group or a leadership group, I don't know what to call them, can I ask, what do you like about working in this and either substitute building or district? Like, can I ask, what do you love most about working in this district to the superintendent? Wouldn't that still be a question they would want to answer or could answer?
No, it definitely could. It definitely could. You're probably going to get, so if going back to one of the things we talked about early on of trying to identify what is the culture or the climate of the building you're going to be working in and day out. The superintendent, the assistant superintendent, the directors, they might not necessarily know that answer. They're going to be answering things from that district perspective. They're going to be explaining why working in that district is so amazing, which is a part of this. But if you're an administrator serving at a school level, you want to know about the culture and the climate of that school. So if you're working with the superintendent or the directors, maybe a question you could ask is, how often do you get to come down to the school and see the amazing things happening there? You want to know, are they going to be down here to support me? Because that's important. You want to know if they can answer, yes, that is an amazing place, and here's how I know it. Because that's a different dynamic. Whereas the teachers, if they're interviewing you, they're already living it. They already know. So you could just ask that question a little bit differently.
Okay, Dave, I am going to put you on the spot here, maybe for the last time. Probably not.
Now you are, huh? Oh, okay.
Now, we're finally there. I know I hadn't put you on the spot at all. So we are 58 minutes into this live stream, meaning that technically we're supposed to be wrapping up, sharing don't forget about all the cool Teach Better things. Subscribe to the Teach Better events calendar at teachbetter.com/events calendar. Have a great week. Love you guys. Sign off, right? The problem is that we did have a Facebook post that we were going to address in the private group. And I literally think that we could have talked about interviews for another hour and a half just to confirm. But what do you want to do? Should we sign off and not address the Facebook post? Or should we touch on it the smallest amount possible? Maybe give some food for thought.
Let's address the question. Okay. And I'm going to encourage everybody else to go to the Facebook group and see the question and provide all of the answers that we don't have time to provide right now. Is that fair?
Okay, I love that plan. So if you're listening right now, you could either be watching this on our Facebook page, in the Facebook group, on YouTube, somewhere on Twitter, because it's 3 different places on Twitter right now, or on Twitch. So we know that you're all kind of located all over. Thank you for joining us on this Sunday. We are talking about a specific post that was in our private Facebook group, which literally means in teachbettergroup.com. I think it's how you access it. Go to teachbettergroup.com. It's literally the Teach Better Team private Facebook group. And the best part of this group is that if you're an educator, you can join. So welcome to the family. And you just request and we let you in. It's super simple. Dave, this was specifically a post from Rebecca Huff.
Yep, it was, yes.
We have all these people watching right now. If any of you are in the private group watching right now, I'm talking to you. And if you are, you might be the only one. So I'm literally talking to you. If you are watching this in the private group, will you tag Rebecca Huff that we're about to talk about her? Because I want to make sure she knows that we addressed her question. So do the little @ symbol, start typing Rebecca. She'll come up. She's in the private group. Her last name is Huff. She's a wonderful educator, by the way. Shout out to Rebecca. But her post is also in the private group. So if you're new to the group or if you've been in there for a while, it should be right at the top because, Rebecca's literally just posted it maybe an hour ago. So Dave, do you have the post where you can read her question?
I'll summarize it. I'll summarize it because this is another one that it hits me because I don't have the answer for this. I struggle with her question as well. Okay. So the basic gist behind her question is, as a teacher, as an educator, when do you stop helping? She's got students who are working on an assignment and they know that it's sort of like a draft before the final. And they keep asking her to give more feedback and more feedback and more feedback until she gives them the thumbs up and says, this is perfect. And then they submit. And her question is, at what point do I tell them just submit it and get the grade that you're going to get? And then I'll give you feedback. And this is a great question. It's one that I've resonated on a lot as a dad when I've said, I'm going to tie your shoes until you're 21 and can move out of the house because I know how to do it. And I'm just going to help you through this. It's also one that I resonate on as an educator thinking, ooh, what's the point of a grade and where does feedback come into play? I think it's an amazing question. And it's one that I think a lot of people deal with, especially this time of year when we're all tired, exhausted, grades are due, we've got testing, all kinds of things going on. So the question is, when do you stop providing all kinds of feedback, support, logistically, managerially, and to support them as an educator?
Okay, there are 13 different directions we could take.
Yes, I know. Again, it's in the Facebook group, people, so feel free to fill whatever gaps we can't get to.
Okay, so I'm going to try and figure out what are the 2 key points I want to make of this massive topic. I think the first one is that this stress of needing to turn in a perfect product may not exist if you don't have such high stakes grading, feedback, and assessment practices.
Oh, Rae Hughart. I've got goosebumps. Yes, please keep going.
In a good way or a bad way?
Oh, in a very good way. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Dave Schmittou just told me I did a good job. I need a moment. Because that is really my concern. So I've lived this. When she is posting about this, there's more to her post that Dave didn't summarize. And the stress of wanting the students to turn in something perfect is something the students are carrying because they want to do well. And my response would be if they could turn it in without that high stakes, I'm going to fail or not do well, you'd be able to get your product differently. And I think we can get into that more, and we may not have time today. My other thing I want to add, Dave, is a way to help with this, as you might even be working to change your grading, assessment, and feedback culture, could be to have very specific points in their progression where they are gaining feedback. I'm, of course, going to go to the grid method. The grid method would be a great way to do this because as the students have these very intentional moments where they're getting feedback with you, that one-on-one or small group attention, as they progress, they eventually reach the end where they turn in this final product and they can see the process in action. The times that I've seen this high stakes stress, students just constantly want to revise is because they don't necessarily see how it all comes together. They don't see the roadmap, the progression. And so at the very, very end, they're like, ooh, it's not perfect. I need to go backward 5 steps. So laying out that process, I think might help. Anyway, Dave, those are my 2 recommendations.
Yes. And they were amazing. My only recommendation that I will give is this idea of a final draft is a completely arbitrary thing that we threw in there that's based off of a date and a time as opposed to anything else. Mm-hmm. So think through why you have decided that there is a final versus a second versus a third versus a first. Which one is the final and why not one more beyond that final? It's arbitrary. So think through it, reflect on it. We can talk more about that some other time.
Well, and Dave, this might be something that comes up on the Focus series.
I guarantee it will now.
Yeah, that's really good. I do want to put it, Danielle just posted like a self-assessment rubric. I don't know why. Did she mention that she was doing this in writing? I have writing in my head where this would be an issue where like you're trying to create the most perfect introduction paragraph, whatever, which I know that we could get into, whatever. My point is that one of the easiest ways as a writing teacher that we did that self-assessment rubric was at the very, very end, right before they had that process of like saying, this is my work that I'd like feedback on, that final, students went through and they highlighted elements of their writing piece that identified areas on the rubric. So for example, as a 6th grade teacher, I'm grading transition words. They take a green highlighter, usually in Google Docs, not actually a green highlighter because, we work in the 21st century, but they like green highlight all the examples of transitions that they had in their paper. And the same thing they do for like a thesis. The thesis would be blue. So they went in and they identified the blue thesis. And what this did was it did allow them to actually truly show you, not only do I have transition words, but I know where they are in my paper. But then on the flip side, right before the end, they turned to a peer and they got peer feedback where the peer was able to say, hey, your whole introduction paragraph is blue. I'm not sure that's correct. Let's look further into that thesis. So you're kind of allowing that check. I think the visual of the color coding was helpful, but anyway, that's just something I really like doing. I miss being a writing teacher. It was so fun.
She was specifically talking about writing, so well done on picking up on that. So excellent example, all about chunking it, disaggregating it, figure out the points that need the correction or the feedback of the sport. Well done. Yes.
So I'm hoping this will come up later this week at the Focus on the Focus series. Dave and Caitlin are live every single Wednesday at 7:00 Eastern, I believe, right?
That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
Where Dave and Caitlin discuss feeding, like grading, feedback, and assessment. They have a theme every single week. Do you know the theme this week, Dave?
I do, and it's going to be an interesting one. We're going to address our thoughts on zeros, redos, retakes, and deadlines. And I'm just going to throw this out there. I guarantee that the majority of people already think that we think something that we don't think. So we're going to probably buck the trend here. So zeros, redos, retakes, and deadlines.
Honestly, I have tuned in. I know this is the lamest thing to say, but I have tuned into every single one, and every single time I am blown away by these conversations. I know the Teach Better team is always live, guys. We're always trying to give you value. This might be my favorite series that we've done in my entire time on the Teach Better team, and I'm not even in it. I'm just listening to it, Dave. I am such a fan of the way that you and Caitlin have structured these pieces. And I'm so glad that we've only just begun them, because while they will be saved in the Academy after the whole thing's done, you guys can very easily go to our YouTube channel or go to whatever social media you want and find the streams, because they are gold conversations, like really good food for thought. So that's just one thing going on this week.
And the differentiator in that, just for people that can't do the quick math, I'm on all the time. And so if this is the best one, it is Caitlin. Caitlin is a genius. Caitlin is amazing. So yes, I'm still Caitlin with love.
You are on all the time, Dave. Like I think consistently at least 3 times a week these days.
Yeah. I get bored easily. So thank you for filling my time.
No, it's really fun. In addition to that, we also have all the normal stuff, right? We have Mastery Chat going on this week. We have Brain Break going on this week, which we know, is just shenanigans. And then, in case you forgot, our 12-hour live. The Teach Better team is going live for 12 hours on Saturday, the 24th of April. That is this coming Saturday, whether we're ready or not for it. We have an entire 12-hour agenda that has been released. We have a ton of educators joining us. And while, of course, Dave and I are going to encourage you like crazy to join us for all 12 hours, don't miss a single minute of the giveaways and the sponsors and everything in between, I do want you guys to know there's a theme to every hour or half an hour. So if you know that you have a life and you're not going to be able to be glued to your computer or your phone, we kind of understand, although we don't. Make sure you tune in for the discussions that you want to be a part of, because there are some incredible conversations happening during the 12 hours.
If it's raining, are we still doing this?
Oh, this is happening rain or shine, Dave. Rain or
it's snowing, Ray?
Doesn't matter. Still happening.
Okay.
Bring your coffee, Dave. Are you going to be live, Dave? Do you think?
How many times do you think I'm hanging out?
Are you really 3?
3 times, right?
You.
I love it.
Oh my God.
I'm excited.
I don't know how often I'm live, but I just want to break this down. I know 3 of the segments at least I'm on. Oh, I'm 4. I think I'm on at least 4 segments, and 2 of which I feel so incredibly nervous about. And the other 2, I feel like I can handle. Like, one is a grid method Q&A, which is going to be so fun. Like, it'll just be spitballing like this. One is I get to go live with Liv and Carrie and like highlight some of the blogs that we have going on at teachbetter.com, like hot topics, kind of like, it's kind of like a book study, but with blogs. Do you know what I'm saying? And then I have to go live. I have to. Do you hear this?
You get to. I saw this one on the thing. I was about to challenge you to an arm wrestling match to see if I could do this one with instead of you. So
wait, which one? Because there's 2 that I'm like so anxious about.
Oh, well, you go ahead. Okay. Go ahead.
One is with Mickey Smith Jr., who was a Grammy Award educator of 2020. And he plays the saxophone, and he might be the coolest human being that has ever existed in the history of education. So Becky Thal and I are going to geek out talking to him. And then I'm going to pee my pants hanging out with Kim Bearden. That's all I'm saying.
That's awesome. Speaking of hiring, they're hiring down at the Ron Clark Academy, people. So maybe this is your opportunity. Plug yourself with Kim on Saturday.
Go do it. Hey, let us know if you need a letter of rec. We'll write you one. All right. Guys, we got to get out of here. Thank you for hanging out with us. There's so much going on with the team. Don't forget to subscribe to the events calendar at teachbetter.com/events calendar, where you can see where we're live and doing all the shenanigans and everything in between. Dave, it was really fun talking shop with you. So thanks for hanging out.
I am so glad we started early.
We know, right? Because we already went late. Horrible. Everybody else have an incredible week. We wish you nothing but beautiful weather and happiness. And if that doesn't happen, just know that we're here to support you for anything that comes your way, like snow in Dave's world. So we love you. We'll see you later.